My name is Gail Sawyer, and I'm the chairperson of the Acton Public Ceremonies and Celebrations Committee. And I would like to thank all of you for attending today's Memorial Day ceremony. If you would like to join me in prayer, please bow your heads. Almighty God, we thank you for bringing us together this Memorial Day ceremony to acknowledge the debt we owe to the men and women of the United States military who have guarded this country with their lives. We especially honor those who lost their lives while defending the nation. They fought on land, at sea, in the air, and on foreign soil, always understanding that they may not come back from the mission and accepting that as part of the job. They were willing to risk death to protect this land we hold so dear and the American people along with it. We thank them for their sacrifice and promise we'll carry their legacy to ensure that they did not die in vain. Amen. I would now like to introduce William Atherton, who will read the proclamation for Memorial Day.
Whereas, while the nation was still recovering from the horrors of the Civil War, people in cities and towns across the country gathered to honor those Union and Confederate soldiers who had given their lives celebrating the first Decoration Day. And whereas, after World War I, the nation came together again to honor those who had fallen in the service of their country, renamed Memorial Day, the last Monday in May is when people remember and honor the memory of all men and women who fought and died in all American wars and conflicts. And whereas, throughout our country's history, thousands of Massachusetts citizens have fought in wars and conflicts to defend our safety and way of life, and whereas that legacy of patriotism and dedication to country is an inspiration to all Americans, and whereas it is appropriate that all Massachusetts citizens remember the bravery of those who gave their lives so their sacrifices serve as a reminder of the cost of our freedom. Now, therefore, I, Maura T. Healy, the Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim May 29th, 2023 to be Memorial Day, and urge all the citizens of the Commonwealth to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance. Given at the Executive Chamber in Boston this first day of May in the year 2023, with the independence of the United States of America, the 246th.
At this time, I would like to introduce James McCrae, who is the District Director of Veteran Services for Acton and Boxborough.
Good morning. I would like to thank everyone for coming in support of today's events. The Acton Minutemen, Select Board members Jim Snyder-Grant, Fran Arsenault, Dean Charter, David Martin, and Alyssa Nicole. School committee members Andrew Schwartz and Yang Xing Schmidt. Senator Jamie Eldridge, Representative Dan Sena, Band Director George Arsenault, and the school bands, and the cemetery department for keeping our cemeteries in tremendous shape. Most importantly, I would like to thank all of you here in attendance. Your presence here year after year ensures that these men and women's sacrifices are not forgotten. We're here to honor those who died in combat, as well as those who have passed away since their service in military. As you look out across the cemetery, you can see American service flags on hundreds of grave sites. Each one of these flags represents years of someone's life dedicated to serving their country. Years of camaraderie, adversity, and uncertainty. Years of being far from home. Both of my grandfathers, Charles McCrae and Joseph McKee, are laid to rest at Mount Hope Cemetery in West Acton. Both were World War II veterans, each with their own stories of that chapter in their lives. And that's just two flags. Two flags out of a veritable sea of red, white, and blue that covers our cemeteries in Acton and across the nation. War is an ugly thing. Nonetheless, it has shaped our country into what it is today. And it's because of these flags. It's because of those before us who had the courage to put on that uniform when it was needed. This has to be admired. So, we will do what we can to honor them. We will continue to trim around the bronze placards placed in the ground at these veterans' grave sites. We will keep replacing every single flag each spring, and we will continue to gather here year after year because it's the least we can do. Again, I want to thank you all for being here today. Thank you very much for your time. Now I'm going to introduce you. And now it's my pleasure to introduce this year's Grand Marshal, retired Colonel Henry J. Hogan. Henry J. Hogan is a longtime resident of Acton, where he had a general practice law firm. He also served in the Army Reserve in the Judge Advocate General Corps as a trial lawyer and military judge. His final assignment before his military retirement in 2006 was Chief of the U.S. Army Reserve's Trial Judiciary. His highest service award is the Legion of Merit. Notable cases he has heard include the Afghanistan Bagram Airfield prisoner abuse cases. He is a graduate of the Army Command and General Staff College and the Air Force War College. In 2008, he was appointed as a United States Administrative Law Judge for the Social Security Administration in San Jose, California. In 2009, he was appointed Hearing Office Chief Judge in Hartford, Connecticut. And in 2010, he began hearing cases in Boston. He and his wife, Mary, an assistant teacher at Blanchard Memorial School in Boxborough, have 2 daughters, 1 son-in-law, 3 grandchildren, and a black lab named Jules. Colonel Hogan is a graduate of Acton Boxborough Regional High School, Norwich University, and New England Law Boston. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome for Colonel Henry Hogan.
Thank you, Jim. I'm honored to be the Grand Marshal and to be speaking with you today on such an important occasion. We're here to honor service members and to remember their sacrifices and the sacrifices they've made for duty, honor, and country. The Greek philosopher Thucydides said, "The bravest are surely those who have a clear vision of what is before them, glory and danger alike, and yet notwithstanding, they go to meet it." We're here today to honor our heroes, to remember their achievements, their courage, and their dedication, and to say thank you for their sacrifices. Thinking of the heroes who join us in this group today, and those who are here only in spirit, a person can't help but feel awed by the enormity of what we encounter. We stand amid patriots and the family and friends of those who have nobly served. Service members we honor today came from all walks of life, but they shared several fundamental qualities. They possessed courage, pride, determination, selflessness, and dedication to duty and integrity, all the qualities needed to serve a larger cause than oneself. Many of them didn't ask to leave their homes to fight on distant battlefields. Many did not even volunteer. They were ordinary people who responded in extraordinary ways in extreme times. They rose to the nation's call because they wanted to protect a nation which has given them and us so much. Since the first shots at Lexington and Concord were fired and our Revolutionary War began, American men and women have been answering the calls to duty. Millions of Americans have fought and died on battlefields here and abroad to defend our freedoms and our way of life. Today, our troops continue to make the ultimate sacrifices As we lose troops, more Americans step forward to say, "I'm ready to serve." They follow in the footsteps of generations of Americans. The idea of Memorial Day, originally called Decoration Day, arose from the ashes of the Civil War. Following the Civil War, at least 620,000 Americans, both Union and Confederate, had been killed and hundreds and thousands of more were maimed. Through the course of the war, Americans blasted each other's lines with cannons, burned cities and towns on our own soil. Americans had locked other Americans in prisoners of war camps and torn up the railroads connecting the North and the South. Homes, schools, churches from Antietam to Vicksburg were riddled with bullet holes. The war's unprecedented carnage and destruction was on a scale unimaginable a few years before. It changed Americans' view of war forever. From those dark times, it was the families who were honoring their dead that began to bring the light of reconciliation. Although there are different versions of Memorial Day and how it began, one story goes that the grieving families, both Northern and Southern, began decorating the graves of their lost soldiers with flowers and wreaths. In one city in Mississippi, people decorated the graves of both Union and Confederate troops out of respect for the families of the Union soldiers and with the hope that someone would do the same for their lost loved ones in the North. These informal honors led to the first formal Memorial Day observance in Waterloo, New York, May 5, 1866. Congress officially recognized Memorial Day as a federal holiday in 1887. Since then, with each passing year and subsequent conflicts, we've continued to honor our troops. We have awarded medals to many soldiers, added their names to monuments, named buildings for them, to honor their service. And I'd like to ask the service members who are here to raise their hands. And now I'd like to ask the family members of any service member to raise your hand. We know you have lived through difficult times and often taken on the heavy load to keep the home fires burning. Thank you for what you have done. Today, people throughout the country will gather to honor and to pay gratitude to those who have served our country. Our gathering is just one small spark in the flame of pride that burns throughout the nation today. It's not a lot, but it is in one small way we can honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice so that we can live in freedom. Your presence here today and that of the people gathering all across America is a tribute to those lost troops and their families. It is a way to say we remember, from the soldiers who shivered and starved through the winter at Valley Forge, the doughboys crouched in the muddy trenches of France, to the platoon who patrolled the hazy jungles of Vietnam, and the young man or woman patrolling the mountains of Afghanistan. We remember and honor them all. Thank you for attending today. God bless you and your families. God bless our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. And God bless America. Thank you. I also want to say thank you to Jim McCrae and Gail Sawyer, who have arranged this event every year as long as I can remember. At least 10 or 12 years anyway. Thank you so much for what you do. Yeah, I'm good.
No, thank you so much, Henry. And on behalf of the town of Acton, we'd like to present to you this flag case to commemorate this event, but also to thank you for your service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. Sure.
I would like to introduce Selectman Dean Charter and Selectwoman Fran Arsenault, who will read the list of deceased veterans. Who's going first? Okay, here, and then flip over for her.
Okay. George Adjul, Navy, Korea. Nicholas Albanese, Army, World War II. Floyd J. Anderson, Navy, Korea. John Nicole Bear, Air Force, peacetime. Richard Anthony Barry, Coast Guard, Vietnam. Richard Becker, Air Force. Morton Berlin, Navy. Susan J. Bradley, Army. Robert Phil Brown, Navy, World War II. Nancy Ann Burnham, Navy, World War II. Clifford Alien Card, Army, Korea. Gerald Eugene Carnival, Army, Vietnam. William Thomas Davies, Jr., Army, Vietnam. Paul G. Duranian, Army, Vietnam. James Eugene Edwards, Army, Korea. Frederick William Finley, Army Air Force, World War II. Ronald Joseph Fitzgerald, Army, peacetime. Del H. Fox, Air Force, Vietnam. Peter Gilmet, Navy. William Kenneth Griffin, Air Force, Korea. Robert B. Hatch, Air Force, Vietnam. Richard Joseph Heffernan, Army, Korea. Sanford Hickey, World War II.
George Harrington Howe, Navy, Korea. Charles Howell, Army. Peter Jamal Jarvie, Air Force, Vietnam. Edward Leo Kelly Sr., Navy, Korea. John C. Kilpatrick, Army, peacetime. Howard Walter Kunstler, Air Force, Vietnam. Richard Kyron Lyons, Army, peacetime. George Wayne McDonald, Army, Vietnam. Arthur McNeil, Army, Vietnam. James C. Mickle, Army, Vietnam. Gary Noveline, Coast Guard, World War II, Korea. Thomas Donahue, Air Force, peacetime. Richard Donald Pacey, Air Force, Korea. Thomas M. Price, Marines, Vietnam. Francis Roy, Navy, Korea. Samuel Schwartz, Air Force. Donald Alva Spinney, Air Force, Korea. David Tompkins, Air Force, Vietnam. Muriel Jean Walters, Army, World War II. Robert Bruyere Whittlesley, Army, World War II. Larry Lamont Williams, Army, Vietnam.
Thank you, Dean and Fran. A wreath will now be placed in honor of veterans who died in the service of their country. Wreaths have also been placed at cemeteries and memorials throughout the town and on the grave of Corporal Nathaniel Allen, who was awarded the highest medal in this country, the Congressional Medal of Honor. The band will now play the Navy hymn. Attention. Present arms. Minutemen, fire 3 volleys.
Rescue, firelocks. Shoulder, firelocks. Priming, load. Marshals up. Shoulder, firelocks. Make, ready. Freeze it. Fire. Priming, load. Shoulder, firelocks. Make, ready. Freeze it. Fire. Priming, load. Shoulder, firelocks. Make, ready. Freeze it. Fire. Hammer skulls on. Reset goal, firelocks.
I would like to introduce Jim Schneider Grant, head of the Board of Selectmen, who will come up and speak.
James was very clear that I'm supposed to speak directly into this thing. There we go. Good morning. It's great to see everybody here. Thanks for joining us on Memorial Day 2023. It's an honor to be here. For those that marched here, we passed the memorial at the town common. The words written there start with this: the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the town of Acton, cooperating to perpetuate the fame of glorious deeds of patriotism, have erected this monument in honor of Captain Isaac Davis and Privates Abner Hosmer and James Hayward, citizen soldiers of Acton and provincial Minutemen who fell and conquered the 19th of April, AD 1775. That was written in 1851, on the eve of another important war, where once again the patriots of Acton came together to keep the nation together. And from the ashes of that Civil War arose the practices and ideas that eventually came together as Memorial Day. We've heard about the horrors of that Civil War, the hundreds and thousands of casualties, the prisoner of war camps where, on both sides, where people were kept in inadequate conditions. Many died there. One of those prisoners of war camps in Charleston, South Carolina, was built on an old race course because it became the location for perhaps the first Decoration Day, just months after the end of the Civil War. Recently freed formerly enslaved people came together to individually rebury more than 250 Union soldiers who had been left in a mass grave at the racecourse, because they understood that the arrival of their newly recognized freedom was because of the sacrifice of these soldiers. After that reburial, there was a solemn ceremony with flowers and marching and speeches, with thousands in attendance, almost entirely formerly enslaved people, to honor the sacrifices that had led to the end of chattel slavery in the United States. That sense of deep thanks and appreciation for the sacrifices of warriors led to more Decoration Day ceremonies across the country, formalized as the National Memorial Day in 1971. Each time our country went to war, Acton answered the call. Each cause was different, but one result was always the same. Some of our bravest men and women went off to fight. Some didn't come back. And those that did come back were changed in all sorts of wonderful and sad ways. Families mourned and made do and carried on. The town, state, and nation do what they can to honor those who sacrifice and support the survivors. What we do is never quite enough to meet the immensity of the need. So we are called to try to do more. So we have events like this, where we come together in solemn witness to thank and support those who survived war and those who did not, and their families and friends. We must always come together at events like this to reflect and reaffirm that those of us who are still here, we are here to support each other and to remember those who are gone. We remember the achievements of those who've left us, their courage and their dedication. We must honor their memory by living our lives to the fullest and by always striving to make our country an even better place. We must never forget their sacrifice, and we must always be grateful for their service. Thank you so much to everyone for being here today. Each of you have your own stories, your own reasons for being here. In my case, it's the story of my Uncle Norris, who waited until near the end of his life to finally open up and share his World War II stories. There are plenty more stories out there to be shared and learned from. Please seek each other out, talk and listen and learn. This is one of the simplest ways we can support those impacted by war, by sharing the memories and weaving these hard-earned lessons into all of our lives. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. May the spirit that unites us bless us and help us carry on.
Thank you, Jim. Many thanks to the bands from Acton Elementary School and the Acton Boxborough Regional High School Band, the Acton Minutemen, and many others participating today. If you would like to join me in the benediction, please bow your heads. Dear Lord, we thank you for having brought us together to pay tribute to those who lost their lives defending our nation and our ideals. May their souls live on in your gracious presence, and may they experience the whole measure of your love and mercy. Give us their courage to defend our freedom when it is threatened. Also grant us the wisdom to avoid abuse of those freedoms, which others have died to defend. Bless them for their courage, and bless their families for their sacrifices. We come in the spirit of peace, remembering that war has many casualties. There are those that died in battle. There are those who were left behind, their lives changed forever by the loss of a spouse, a parent, a child, a friend, a comrade. We remember those who suffer as a result of war, injury, disability, mental distress. We pray, too, for those who are caught in the middle of conflict, for the homeless, the refugee, the hungry, those who mourn their dead. We even pause to remember those who died or have suffered. We pray for our leaders of this country and for every country around the world, that they might be guided by such wisdom that peace might prevail. Amen. Parade, attention. The band will now play the national anthem as the flag is being raised.
Present your fire.
Parade rest. Thank you all for coming. Parade dismissed.